Have you ever looked into the night sky and felt an unshakable sense of familiarity, as if you've been here before? Have you ever met someone for the first time, yet felt like you've known them forever? These moments spark the ancient question that has captivated humanity for centuries. Where did we come from before birth? Buddhism offers a perspective unlike any other. It does not point to a single creator or a spontaneous emergence, but instead reveals a continuous cycle of existence, one shaped by karma, consciousness, and the actions we take in each life. The Buddha himself, through his enlightenment, discovered the vast web of past lives that led him to that very moment, and his teachings continue to guide us in understanding the mystery of rebirth. Modern science, too, is beginning to echo these insights. From the study of near-death experiences to neurological research on consciousness, findings suggest that our awareness may not be confined to a single lifetime. And if consciousness flows like a river, then the choices we make today shape not only our present, but the lives that follow. In this deep dive into Buddhist wisdom, we will explore the evidence of past lives, the mechanics of rebirth, the role of karma, and how understanding these truths can transform the way we live. Whether you're a spiritual seeker, a skeptic, or someone simply curious about the mysteries of existence, this journey will challenge your perceptions and expand your understanding of life itself. If you find value in this exploration, don't forget to subscribe to Wisdom of the Buddha and share this knowledge with others seeking answers to life's biggest questions. Now, let's begin. Chapter 1: The Timeless Inquiry into Our Origins. Have you ever gazed at the stars and felt an inexplicable sense of familiarity? A feeling as though you've been here before? The question of our origins has echoed throughout human history. It goes beyond mere biological lineage. Where were we before birth? This question is not merely philosophical, but deeply spiritual. In Buddhist thought, this very curiosity mirrors the journey of the Buddha himself. Siddhartha Gautama, after his enlightenment, reflected on the cycle of birth and death, realizing that his existence spanned countless lifetimes, seeking the builder of this house, the attachments and ignorance that perpetuate samsara, the cycle of rebirth. Buddhism differs from many religious traditions that propose a singular creator or random emergence. Instead, the Buddha presented a middle way, avoiding extremes of eternalism and nihilism. He remained silent on metaphysical speculation, focusing instead on what can be known: suffering, its causes, and the path to liberation. This approach is like questioning what lies beyond the North Pole. The question itself is misframed. Understanding unfolds gradually, like a sloping ocean floor, revealing its depth step by step. To comprehend rebirth, we must examine its evidence, mechanisms, and implications for our lives. Chapter 2: The Evidence for Past Lives. If past lives exist, is there evidence? The Buddha, on the night of his enlightenment, recalled countless previous lives, not as vague impressions, but as detailed recollections. He understood suffering intimately because he had experienced it across lifetimes. But what about modern evidence? The University of Virginia's Division of Perceptual Studies has documented over 2,500 cases of children who recall past lives. Dr. Ian Stevenson and Dr. Jim Tucker studied these cases, verifying children's claims through independent investigations. Many children recall specific details about past families, places, and even languages they never learned. A famous case is Shanti Devi from India, who at 4 years old described her past life in Mathura, detailing her husband's name and even her death circumstances. When confronted, her claimed past life husband verified her story. Some of the most influential minds in history have explored the possibility of reincarnation. Thomas Edison, the prolific inventor, once suggested that the human mind operates on a frequency that does not simply vanish after death. He believed in the idea that knowledge and consciousness persist in ways beyond our immediate comprehension. These accounts, though extraordinary, face skepticism. Critics argue memory suggestion, cultural influences, or mere coincidence could explain them. However, the consistency across cultures and spontaneous recall at a young age make them difficult to dismiss. Beyond children, many adults experience past life memories through déjà vu, strong affinities for certain places, or unexplained phobias. If you have an irrational fear of drowning, could it be a remnant of a past traumatic event? Winston Churchill, known for his resilience and leadership during World War II, spoke about feeling an unexplained connection to historic battlefields and military strategies as if he had been through them before. This phenomenon extends beyond anecdotal evidence. Carl Sagan, the legendary astrophysicist, acknowledged that while reincarnation lacks definitive scientific proof, the sheer volume of cases warranted further investigation. He believed that unexplained patterns of memory recall could have legitimate scientific underpinnings. Steve Jobs, the visionary behind Apple, was heavily influenced by Eastern philosophy and Zen Buddhism. He embraced the concept of reincarnation and often reflected on how life's lessons carry over in ways we do not immediately understand. His belief in the continuous refinement of the mind and spirit resonates deeply with Buddhist teachings on karma and rebirth. Modern technology has also added new dimensions to the study of past life recall. Advances in neuroimaging allow researchers to examine the brain's ability to access latent memories, potentially hinting at stored experiences beyond one lifetime. The work of Dr. Brian Weiss, a prominent psychiatrist, has further pushed the conversation into mainstream discourse. His research with patients under hypnosis revealed vivid past life memories that transformed their current behaviors, phobias, and relationships. Political leaders, too, have expressed a belief in reincarnation. Former U.S. President Theodore Roosevelt often spoke of an unshakable inner force driving him toward public service, as if he had been a warrior or leader in past lifetimes. Similarly, Mahatma Gandhi, the father of India's independence movement, openly embraced reincarnation, believing that the soul's journey was eternal and shaped by one's deeds. The widespread nature of past life accounts, spanning different continents, cultures, and time periods, suggests that reincarnation may not simply be a spiritual belief, but a fundamental aspect of human consciousness that we have yet to fully understand. Whether through scientific exploration or personal experiences, the question of past lives continues to challenge our perception of reality. Chapter 3: The Continuity of Consciousness. If we accept rebirth, how does it work? Buddhism teaches that consciousness is not a fixed entity but a continuous stream, much like a river. The water is ever-changing, yet the river remains. Buddhism rejects the concept of a permanent soul but acknowledges continuity. The Buddha likened this to a flame transferring from one candle to another. The second flame is neither identical to the first nor entirely different. It continues causally. At death, the body dissolves, but the mind stream persists. Tibetan Buddhism describes the dissolution of elements, earth, water, fire, and air, culminating in the transition to the bardo, an intermediate state before rebirth. This phase is like a dream, shaped by past karma. The concept of continuity is not foreign to modern thinkers. Nikola Tesla, one of the greatest scientific minds of all time, spoke about energy and frequency as the fundamental essence of existence. He famously said, "If you want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration." This idea aligns with the Buddhist notion that consciousness is a stream of energy rather than a static entity. Neuroscientists have also explored the persistence of consciousness beyond the physical body. The work of Dr. Stuart Hameroff and physicist Roger Penrose suggests that consciousness may exist in a quantum state, independent of the brain. Their theory posits that when the body dies, quantum information stored in microtubules within brain cells is released back into the universe, potentially continuing in another form. Historical leaders have also shared perspectives on the continuity of existence. Alexander the Great, who conquered much of the known world by the age of 30, believed that he had lived before as Achilles, the Greek warrior of the Trojan War. His unwavering belief in destiny and his own continuity of purpose mirrors the Buddhist concept of karmic energy transferring from one life to another. In Tibetan Buddhist tradition, the Dalai Lama is believed to be a reincarnated bodhisattva, a being who repeatedly takes birth to help others attain enlightenment. The process of identifying the next Dalai Lama involves recognizing a young child who demonstrates past life memories. This selection method has persisted for centuries, further supporting the idea that consciousness is not extinguished at death, but instead finds new form. Even in the business world, some of the most successful entrepreneurs seem to operate with an almost supernatural sense of continuity. Warren Buffett, the legendary investor, has often spoken about his intuitive understanding of financial markets from an early age, as if he had seen it all before. His ability to predict market behaviors and long-term trends aligns with the idea that knowledge and experience may transcend lifetimes. Philosophers have also contemplated this notion. German philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer wrote extensively on the cyclical nature of existence, influenced by Buddhist and Hindu thought. He believed that an individual's consciousness does not simply vanish, but continues in a different form, shaped by desires and attachments carried over from past existences. Even in modern psychology, the concept of past experiences influencing current behaviors aligns with Buddhist teachings. Dr. Carl Jung introduced the idea of the collective unconscious, a vast reservoir of shared human experiences and memories. He theorized that certain fears, instincts, and patterns of thought might not originate in a single lifetime, but rather emerge from an ongoing continuity of human consciousness. In Tibetan Buddhism, it is believed that the final thoughts at the moment of death play a crucial role in determining the next rebirth. This is why experienced monks train in practices like Phawa, a meditation that guides consciousness at the time of death. This meticulous attention to the transition between lives suggests that consciousness is not merely an illusion of the present, but part of an enduring cycle. Throughout history, many figures have described inexplicable experiences that suggest a deeper continuity of consciousness. Leonardo da Vinci, one of the greatest minds of the Renaissance, was proficient in a vast range of disciplines, from anatomy to engineering, art to military strategy. His ability to master so many fields in one lifetime raises the question: was his genius simply the result of extraordinary intellect, or was he carrying the wisdom of multiple lifetimes? The question of continuity extends even to artificial intelligence. Elon Musk, founder of Tesla and SpaceX, has frequently discussed the idea that human consciousness might one day be transferable to machines, preserving identity beyond biological death. His concept of neural lace, a technology that could potentially interface human minds with AI, reflects a modern exploration of what Buddhism has taught for centuries, that consciousness is not confined to one form and may continue evolving beyond our current understanding. Military strategists, too, have exhibited signs of continuity across lifetimes. Napoleon Bonaparte was known for his ability to recall detailed battle plans and historical strategies as if he had lived through them before. His near-obsessive study of ancient warfare, particularly the tactics of Julius Caesar, suggests an eerie familiarity with events beyond his own time. Artists and musicians have often spoken about inspiration coming from beyond themselves, as though channeled from another time. Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart composed music at an astonishingly young age, creating symphonies and operas with a level of complexity that even seasoned composers struggle to achieve. When asked how he composed so effortlessly, he described it as though the music already existed. He was merely bringing it into the present. The idea that knowledge and consciousness persist across time is deeply embedded in multiple traditions. Ancient Egyptian beliefs about the afterlife, for instance, emphasize the journey of the soul through different realms, much like the Buddhist Bardo. The pharaohs underwent elaborate burial rituals to ensure their consciousness could navigate the transition into the next existence. Even within the framework of Christianity, there have been discussions on the continuity of the soul. Some early Christian sects, such as the Gnostics, held beliefs about reincarnation that were later deemed heretical. Famous thinkers like Benjamin Franklin were fascinated by the idea of rebirth, with Franklin even writing that he wished to return in another form to continue his work. If consciousness is a flow rather than a fixed identity, then what we perceive as self may be a temporary formation within a much larger continuum. This perspective fundamentally shifts how we see existence, not as a single linear journey, but as an ongoing process of learning, evolving, and refining through countless lifetimes. Chapter 4: How Karma Shapes Rebirth. If consciousness continues, what determines where it goes next? The answer lies in karma, not as divine judgment, but as cause and effect. Intentional actions leave imprints on our mind stream, influencing future rebirths. Imagine planting seeds. Some sprout immediately, others take time, depending on conditions. Similarly, past actions influence present circumstances. The Kulakamavibhanga Sutta explains disparities in life, wealth, beauty, intelligence, as results of past karma. Yet karma is not fatalistic. We can change our trajectory through mindful action, much like steering a boat in a river. Understanding this empowers us to take responsibility for our present and future. The idea of karma is deeply embedded in many traditions beyond Buddhism. In Hinduism, Jainism, and even some interpretations of Western philosophy, the principle of cause and effect in human actions determines one's destiny. Aristotle, one of history's greatest philosophers, argued that virtues and vices shape one's character and future, an idea that strongly parallels the Buddhist understanding of karma. In the modern world, this principle is evident in the lives of powerful figures. Take Jeff Bezos, for example. The founder of Amazon started his journey from a humble garage, taking calculated risks and working relentlessly toward his goals. His rise to one of the wealthiest individuals in the world wasn't purely accidental. It was the compounded effect of his choices, discipline, and strategic thinking. This aligns with karma. What you cultivate, you eventually reap. On the other hand, history provides striking examples of how negative karma manifests. Adolf Hitler, a man who caused immense suffering, met a violent and tragic end. His actions shaped his destiny, reinforcing the Buddhist idea that the energy one puts into the world eventually returns. The concept of karma is also reflected in leadership and governance. Nelson Mandela, despite enduring decades in prison, maintained a mindset of forgiveness and unity. His patience and moral integrity transformed not only his own life, but an entire nation. His karmic actions bore fruit in the form of peace and reconciliation in post-apartheid South Africa. Even in business, karma is evident. Warren Buffett, one of the most successful investors of all time, follows a principle of ethical investing and long-term value creation. He once said, "Someone's sitting in the shade today because someone planted a tree a long time ago." His approach mirrors the Buddhist idea that positive intentions and sustained effort lead to beneficial outcomes. The scientific world is beginning to explore karma in a new light. Neuroscientists have studied how habitual actions create neural pathways, reinforcing certain behaviors over time. Dr. Joe Dispenza, a neuroscientist and author, argues that our thoughts and emotions create biochemical feedback loops that shape our future experiences, an idea that closely resembles karma. If we consistently think and act negatively, we reinforce suffering. If we cultivate positive thoughts and actions, we create a more favorable reality. The karmic principle extends to societal progress as well. Take Malala Yousafzai, the youngest Nobel laureate, who stood up for girls' education despite facing life-threatening consequences. Her courage and commitment have created ripple effects, changing the fate of millions of young girls worldwide. Her actions, driven by selfless intent, demonstrate that karma is not just about individual rebirth. It shapes the collective destiny of societies. The entertainment industry also showcases karma in motion. Keanu Reeves, known not only for his success in Hollywood, but also for his humility and generosity, has become a beloved figure. He has donated vast portions of his earnings to charity, helped struggling co-workers, and maintained a lifestyle of kindness. As a result, he has earned immense respect and admiration, a karmic reward for his good deeds. The principle of karma is not limited to human life alone. Environmental science now acknowledges that humanity's actions toward nature have long-term consequences. Climate change, deforestation, and pollution are direct results of reckless human behavior. Conversely, nations that invest in sustainability and conservation are beginning to see the benefits: clearer air, healthier ecosystems, and long-term economic stability. The karma of our collective actions determines the future of our planet. History also presents figures who have actively worked to change their karma. Muhammad Ali, once a controversial figure for refusing to fight in the Vietnam War, later became one of the most celebrated athletes and humanitarians in history. His personal evolution, from a brash young fighter to a global ambassador of peace, illustrates how self-awareness and right action can transform one's karmic path. Similarly, Oprah Winfrey, who came from an impoverished background and suffered significant hardships, reshaped her destiny through perseverance, wisdom, and philanthropy. Her life is a testament to the idea that past suffering does not determine future suffering. Our responses to challenges define our trajectory. The modern understanding of karma extends into psychology. Cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, is based on the premise that habitual thought patterns create emotional and behavioral outcomes. If one constantly engages in negative self-talk, they will likely experience negative emotions and actions. This is no different from karma. Negative mental imprints lead to suffering, while positive conditioning leads to well-being. Karma also plays out in the geopolitical sphere. Consider South Korea's rise from a war-torn country to one of the most technologically advanced nations. Through decades of disciplined effort, innovation, and investment in education, South Korea's karma has led it to prosperity. Meanwhile, nations plagued by corruption, greed, and mismanagement often suffer prolonged economic hardship, a reflection of negative collective karma. Another compelling case is Elon Musk, who has consistently taken high risks with ventures like SpaceX, Tesla, and Neuralink. Despite many failures, his persistence and innovative mindset have propelled him to unparalleled success. His story aligns with the karmic principle: the seeds of effort, regardless of how many times they fail to sprout, will eventually bear fruit if nurtured correctly. Ultimately, karma is neither punishment nor reward. It is simply the natural law of cause and effect. By understanding this, we can shape our lives with intentionality, wisdom, and compassion. The Buddha taught that liberation from suffering comes from breaking free from negative karmic cycles and cultivating mindfulness, ethical conduct, and wisdom. The karmic principle teaches us that we are not victims of fate, but architects of our future. Whether in business, politics, science, or personal development, the truth remains: what we sow, we shall reap. Karma is not a mystical force. It is the very fabric of how the universe operates. Chapter 5, the No-Self Paradox. Buddhism's concept of anatta, no-self, challenges conventional identity. We feel like a continuous self, yet upon close examination we are ever-changing. Just as a chariot is a sum of its parts, so are we, a collection of fleeting physical and mental processes. This paradox extends to rebirth. If there is no permanent self, what is reborn? The answer: patterns, tendencies, and karmic imprints. Just as a river maintains continuity without fixed water, the mind stream carries forward karma without a permanent soul. The idea that there is no fixed self may seem unsettling, but it is a profound truth observed in many fields of science and philosophy. Neuroscience has revealed that our brains are constantly changing, a concept known as neuroplasticity. Dr. Richard Davidson, a neuroscientist who has studied the brains of Buddhist monks, found that meditation alters neural pathways, reinforcing the idea that identity is fluid and shaped by moment-to-moment experiences. The world of physics echoes this principle as well. Albert Einstein's theory of relativity demonstrates that time and space are not absolute, they are relative and constantly shifting. If the fabric of the universe itself is in flux, why should human identity be any different? Quantum mechanics suggests that reality at its most fundamental level is not made up of fixed particles, but ever-changing waves of probability. This aligns with the Buddhist understanding that we are not static beings, but dynamic processes. This idea is not foreign to great thinkers. Friedrich Nietzsche famously proclaimed, "There is no being behind doing, affecting, becoming. The doer is merely a fiction added to the deed." This aligns with the Buddhist rejection of a fixed self. Nietzsche understood that identity is an illusion created by language and perception, much like the Buddhist teaching that the self is merely a convention, not an ultimate reality. If there is no permanent self, how do we explain personal continuity? Consider the case of Leonardo da Vinci. He was an artist, engineer, scientist, and inventor, constantly evolving and redefining his skills. Was he the same person at 20 as he was at 60? Clearly not. His thoughts, knowledge, and even physical body had transformed. Yet there was a continuity, not of an unchanging essence, but of accumulated experiences and actions, exactly how Buddhism explains rebirth. The no-self doctrine also helps us understand emotional and psychological growth. Oprah Winfrey, a global media icon, has spoken about how she constantly reinvents herself. Her journey from poverty to success was not a single transformation, but a series of changes in mindset, habits, and self-perception. If she clung to a rigid sense of self, she might never have evolved into the powerhouse she is today. Philosophy and modern psychology both confirm that our identities are malleable. Carl Jung's theory of individuation suggests that we are not born with a fixed identity, but develop it through life experiences. Jung believed that we contain many potential selves, and through self-awareness, we integrate them into a more harmonious being. This mirrors the Buddhist belief that through mindfulness and meditation, we dissolve the illusion of a singular, unchanging self, and instead embrace the reality of a constantly evolving consciousness. Technology also sheds light on this concept. Artificial intelligence is a prime example of how learning and adaptation create identity. Take Sophia, the AI robot developed by Hanson Robotics. She learns from experience, refines her responses, and evolves over time. If an AI can function without a fixed self, why should humans be any different? Like AI, we are shaped by input, conditioning, and learning, a process rather than a permanent entity. Even in leadership and politics, the no-self principle can be observed. Barack Obama, before becoming president of the United States, was a community organizer, a law professor, a senator. His identity shifted based on his role and experiences. This fluid transformation is precisely what Buddhism teaches, that identity is not fixed, but a process of becoming. The concept of no-self also has profound implications for morality and ethics. If we understand that there is no unchanging self, it becomes clear that our past does not have to define us. Malcolm X, once a criminal, later became one of the most powerful voices for civil rights. His transformation illustrates that a person's actions and identity can change completely, aligning with the Buddhist idea that there is no fixed essence, only ever-changing conditions. Artists and musicians often experience the dissolution of self in their creative process. David Bowie, known for constantly reinventing his persona and musical style, famously said, "I don't know where I'm going from here, but I promise it won't be boring." His willingness to shed old identities and embrace new ones aligns perfectly with the Buddhist teaching that clinging to a static self is an illusion. The idea of no self is also useful in understanding human suffering. When people experience depression or anxiety, they often feel trapped in a fixed state, believing they are inherently broken or unworthy. But if identity is fluid, then these mental states are not permanent. They can be changed through meditation, therapy, and personal growth. The realization that we are not bound to a single identity can be liberating, allowing us to let go of past pain and reinvent ourselves. In sports, athletes experience moments where their sense of self dissolves and they become one with the game. This is known as the flow state, a term popularized by psychologist Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi. Michael Jordan, widely regarded as the greatest basketball player of all time, often described how he lost all sense of individual identity during high-pressure moments, becoming purely the action, the movement, the game itself. This echoes the Buddhist teaching that the sense of self is just an illusion that disappears when one is fully present. Even in the financial world, the ability to adapt and let go of rigid identity is crucial. Ray Dalio, founder of Bridgewater Associates, one of the world's largest hedge funds, emphasizes the importance of ego dissolution in decision-making. He argues that the biggest obstacle to success is the illusion of knowing, which aligns with the Buddhist teaching that attachment to a fixed identity is a source of suffering. One of the most fascinating aspects of the no-self doctrine is its application in personal relationships. When people cling to fixed identities, whether in marriage, friendships, or business partnerships, they create unnecessary conflict. Bill and Melinda Gates, despite having built a philanthropic empire together, understood that their personal evolution required them to part ways. Their amicable separation reflects the wisdom of embracing change rather than clinging to a rigid sense of self. In Buddhist thought, enlightenment is the realization that the self is a construct, an illusion created by the mind. This realization does not mean we cease to exist. Rather, it frees us from unnecessary suffering. By letting go of the attachment to a fixed identity, we become more adaptable, open-minded, and compassionate. From historical figures to modern innovators, from philosophy to neuroscience, the principle of no self is evident everywhere. Understanding that we are not fixed beings but evolving processes allows us to embrace change, let go of past limitations, and continuously grow. This is not just an abstract philosophy. It is the key to true liberation. Chapter 6: Science and Buddhist Wisdom. Modern science increasingly aligns with Buddhist insights. Neuroscience struggles with the hard problem of consciousness, how subjective experience arises from the brain. Some propose that consciousness is fundamental, rather than a byproduct of neural activity. Cases of terminal lucidity, where dementia patients regain clarity before death, challenge the notion that memory resides solely in the brain. Similarly, heart transplant recipients sometimes adopt personality traits of their donors, hinting at consciousness beyond the physical. Near-death experiences, NDEs, consistently describe awareness beyond the body, reinforcing Buddhist perspectives on transitional states of consciousness. Meditation research shows that sustained practice physically alters the brain, supporting Buddhist claims about cultivating refined perception. Rather than proving Buddhism right, these findings suggest a convergence of ancient wisdom and scientific inquiry. Neuroscientists like Dr. Christoph Koch have spent decades researching consciousness and now argue that it may not be entirely confined to the brain. His work in integrated information theory suggests that consciousness arises from complex networks of information, similar to how Buddhist teachings describe the mind as an interconnected flow rather than a singular, isolated entity. Quantum physics, too, is beginning to mirror Buddhist thought. Nobel Prize-winning physicist Erwin Schrödinger was fascinated by Vedantic and Buddhist philosophy, believing that consciousness was not separate from the universe but an integral part of it. This aligns with the Buddhist principle of interconnectedness, where no self exists independently but is part of an ever-changing web of existence. The concept of reincarnation has even gained some traction in scientific circles. Dr. Ian Stevenson spent years studying cases of children who recalled past lives, documenting thousands of instances where memories, birthmarks, and behaviors seemed to match real individuals who had passed away. His successor, Dr. Jim Tucker, continues this research at the University of Virginia, using rigorous methods to analyze how past life memories might be stored beyond the physical brain. Modern medicine has also encountered inexplicable phenomena that align with Buddhist ideas about the mind. Dr. Pim van Lommel, a Dutch cardiologist, has extensively researched NDEs and found that patients who were clinically dead often reported vivid experiences, seeing light, meeting deceased loved ones, and gaining profound insights despite having no measurable brain activity. This challenges the materialist view that consciousness ceases when the brain stops functioning. Meditation is another area where science and Buddhism converge. The work of Dr. Richard Davidson at the University of Wisconsin has demonstrated that long-term meditation practitioners exhibit significant changes in brain function, particularly in areas associated with focus, empathy, and emotional regulation. These findings support Buddhist claims that mental training can reshape the brain and alter one's experience of reality. Visionaries in the tech industry have also drawn inspiration from these concepts. Steve Jobs, who studied Zen Buddhism, integrated mindfulness into his leadership style and credited his meditation practice with sharpening his intuition. He saw parallels between Buddhist thought and technological innovation, where impermanence and adaptability drive progress. Psychology further supports Buddhist principles through the study of cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT. Pioneered by figures like Dr. Aaron Beck, CBT is based on the idea that thoughts shape reality, an insight long recognized in Buddhist teachings on perception and suffering. By changing thought patterns, individuals can alter their emotional and behavioral responses, mirroring the Buddhist path to mental liberation. Elon Musk, one of the world's most influential entrepreneurs, has spoken about the possibility of mind uploading, storing human consciousness in digital form. While this concept remains speculative, it reflects a growing scientific interest in the nature of self and identity, ideas that Buddhism has explored for thousands of years. Even artificial intelligence research is beginning to echo Buddhist insights. Scholars like Dr. Ray Kurzweil propose that future AI systems may develop self-awareness, raising questions about what consciousness truly is. If an AI can develop a form of sentience, Does that mean it possesses a stream of consciousness like humans? Buddhist philosophy would argue that even human awareness is not fixed, but emerges from interdependent conditions, much like an advanced AI system. The influence of Buddhism on science can also be seen in environmental sustainability. The Dalai Lama has long spoken about the deep interconnection between all life forms, a concept supported by ecological science. Figures like Jane Goodall, the renowned primatologist, have embraced similar views, advocating for compassion toward animals and nature as a reflection of our shared consciousness. In the realm of astrophysics, Carl Sagan famously stated that we are made of star stuff, acknowledging that our bodies and minds are composed of elements that have existed for billions of years. This idea is strikingly similar to the Buddhist view that nothing arises independently. Everything is a continuation of past forms. Even in politics, figures like Nelson Mandela demonstrated principles of Buddhist wisdom, emphasizing forgiveness, interconnectedness, and transformation. His ability to move beyond personal suffering for the greater good reflects the Buddhist teaching that transcending the ego leads to true freedom. As science advances, the gap between empirical knowledge and ancient wisdom continues to narrow. Concepts once dismissed as mystical, such as consciousness beyond the brain, the effects of meditation, and the fluid nature of self, are now being rigorously studied in laboratories. Buddhism and science may not always align perfectly, but they share a fundamental curiosity about reality, pushing humanity closer to understanding the profound nature of existence. Chapter 7. Applying rebirth to daily life. If we accept rebirth, how does it change our lives? Understanding past lives diminishes fear of death, reframing it as a transition rather than an end. It also fosters resilience. Challenges are not random misfortunes, but opportunities to refine our karma. This perspective nurtures compassion. If we've all been mothers, fathers, and children in past lives, how can we harbor hatred? The Buddha emphasized that wise individuals cultivate positive karma through generosity, kindness, and wisdom, recognizing the ripple effect of their actions. The practical implications of rebirth are vast. Consider Nelson Mandela, who endured 27 years of imprisonment, but emerged with an unbreakable spirit, advocating for peace rather than revenge. His capacity for forgiveness and transformation mirrors the Buddhist understanding that hardships are not punishments but opportunities for growth. Through his choices, he reshaped his karma and altered the course of history. For those seeking to apply these principles, there are tangible steps. Meditation to develop insight into recurring patterns. Mindful living to plant seeds for future well-being. Reflection on impermanence and karma to cultivate intentionality. The corporate world also provides examples of karmic cycles in action. Take Satya Nadella, the CEO of Microsoft. When he took over the company, he didn't just focus on profits. He infused the culture with empathy, innovation, and collaboration. His leadership transformed Microsoft from a rigid corporate giant into a forward-thinking industry leader. This shift reflects the Buddhist idea that change begins with conscious effort, shaping future outcomes. On a personal level, understanding rebirth can inspire more meaningful living. Consider Jane Goodall, the world-renowned primatologist. Her life's work protecting animals and advocating for conservation reflects an awareness of interconnectedness, a central Buddhist tenet. If one believes in rebirth, then every action affecting the planet today will shape the conditions of future existences. The entertainment industry has also demonstrated the power of transformation. Robert Downey Jr., once plagued by addiction and self-destructive behavior, completely reinvented his life and career, eventually becoming one of Hollywood's most beloved actors. His story is a modern illustration of karma, choices leading to consequences, but also the ability to break free from negative cycles. The Buddha recommended 5 daily reflections. 1. I am subject to aging. 2. I am subject to illness. 3. I am subject to death. 4. I will be separated from all that is dear to me. 5. I am the owner of my actions, heir to my actions. These truths are not morbid but liberating, reminding us to live with purpose, compassion, and wisdom. Every action, no matter how small, shapes our future, perhaps even our next life. Scientific studies now reinforce these ideas. Dr. Joe Dispenza, a neuroscientist and researcher, has shown that the brain and body can be rewired through intentional action. His findings align with the Buddhist principle that past actions shape present conditions, but with mindfulness and effort, we can change the trajectory of our lives. A real-world example of conscious rebirth is Malala Yousafzai. After surviving an assassination attempt, she could have chosen a path of resentment. Instead, she dedicated her life to education and women's empowerment. Her ability to channel suffering into purpose embodies the Buddhist principle of transcending past karma to create a better future. This principle also plays out in business ethics. Patagonia, an environmentally conscious brand, operates on the belief that corporate success should not come at the expense of future generations. Its sustainable practices align with the Buddhist view that actions today shape conditions for those who come after us. In politics, figures like Angela Merkel have demonstrated long-term thinking over short-term gains. Her leadership in handling global crises showed an understanding that actions have lasting consequences, mirroring the Buddhist teaching that every choice impacts the future. Even in sports, the principle of karma is evident. Serena Williams, through relentless training and discipline, has rewritten the history of tennis, proving that effort and perseverance yield results. Her journey illustrates the law of cause and effect. Consistent actions create destiny. By embracing these insights, we transform not only our understanding of death, but the way we live, fully, wisely, and with deep interconnectedness. This is the essence of rebirth, the awareness that every moment is an opportunity to shape what comes next. Life is not a singular journey, but an ever-unfolding path, shaped by the echoes of our past and the intentions we set for the future. Understanding rebirth is not just about contemplating what happens after death. It is about how we choose to live right now. If every action leaves an imprint, then kindness, generosity, and wisdom are the true currencies that shape our destiny. By practicing mindfulness, embracing impermanence, and taking responsibility for our karma, we can navigate this life and the next with greater clarity and purpose. From the evidence of past lives to the neurological studies supporting Buddhist insights, we are beginning to see that science and spirituality are not opposing forces, but intertwined threads in the tapestry of human understanding. Figures like the Dalai Lama, renowned scientists, and great thinkers throughout history have all touched upon this profound truth. We are more than this moment, more than this body, more than this single lifetime. So the question is no longer just, who were you before you were born, but who will you become next? The choices you make today will ripple across lifetimes. Choose wisely. If this exploration has inspired you, we invite you to continue the journey with us. Subscribe to Wisdom of the Buddha for more insights and share this message so that others too may awaken to the deeper truths of existence. May your path be filled with wisdom, compassion, and boundless understanding.